Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
I was just thinking about, some of the people I have heard in the media saying that this is a hoax. Unbelievable. We've got 2 people dying almost every minute in the United States now, and bodies are piling up everywhere. As a matter of fact, the New York Fire Department and others have been told, paramedics in the 9/11 system, saying that, you know, how we used to resuscitate people who'd have cardiac arrest? Well, we're not going to do that anymore. We don't have the time to do it anymore because we're so urgently needed with people. Other people are dying. Don't work on the ones that are in front of you. Let them go. That's where we are in the United States. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, you can take us with you. Or actually, where you're going to go, you can listen in place. 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418 is the telephone listen line provided by Global Star. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Guineith, everyone's in trouble. I don't know anybody who, well, maybe the elite are okay. People who tell us all what to do and have more money than brains. Those guys are probably okay, but the rest of us are in trouble. And let me give you an example. So we're farmers. We raise black Angus cows. And what used to happen in the good old days, a couple of weeks ago, we could take them to market, and companies would buy them, and they would bring them to a yard where they'd be fattened up with grain, because we just feed our cows grass. And they would fatten them up, and then they would go on to the next step, which would be slaughtering and processing, and then they'd end up in the meat departments of supermarkets, and they'd end up at, some of the food joints, fast food joints and restaurants. Well, that's not the case so much anymore, because companies have that are in the processing business, like Tyson, like JBS, and others, beef, pork, chicken, they have shut down their processing plants because of the coronavirus. Their employees who are on the lines that process meat, fresh meat, have become infected at an increasing rate. So they've shut down some plants. So Tyson is the latest to make the big announcement that it's shut down. They've been trying to run with infected workers to keep the plants, operating. It's not working so much anymore, so now Tyson is shut down. And what that means is there's no place for the cows to go, no place for the chickens to go, no place for the pigs to go, because now the farmers are stuck with them. So guys like us, we have cows, and normally the cows have calves, and we would sell a portion of our herd, and we can't do that because there's no place to sell them. Can you imagine that? No place to sell them. It's kind of like oil. Kind of like having so much crude oil and no place to put it. So pretty soon, maybe even farmers are going to have a choice. They're going to either have to just let them go, let the cows go, and let them wander the streets and roads and byways and highways of the United States, or we'll kill them. Because here in Missouri, the generally dumb public voted for the right to farm bill. And the Right to Farm bill said we have the right to farm, which we used to have, but now we have the right to farm under the supervision of the Board of Health, which has disappeared. Where did they go? Well, they're all home, right? So if we want to sell a cow, put an ad in the paper or on the internet and say, you can buy this cow and we'll cut it up for you. We can't do that because we have to be inspected by the government. And we're not. And just about every farmer is not. So it's not like we're special. So we have cows and no place to go, and there is a general panic among farmers now. That's how it is. And I don't think it's just in the United States. I think this is a problem worldwide. So in terms of, is there meat? Yes. Is there safe meat? Yes. Well, I'm not saying there's safe meat, by these factory production assembly lines that the big names. I'm not saying that's safe meat. But if you want to get a closed herd, kind of like what we have, no animals come in out from outside the farm. If you wanted to get a cow and have it slaughtered on the farm and take it with you, you could do that from us, except the government won't let us do that. So I guess we have to figure out a way to do it. And I think the current thinking at the family here is you can buy a portion of a cow, let's say a quarter of a cow, and you'll have to show up and be part of the slaughtering and be part of the cutting up and then take that cow with you. That's what we're going to have to do. But the virus is a problem. Are we going to let people on our farm that we don't know? So that is just one small part of the corona panic that is wild throughout the country. Guineith, what's happening in your neck of the woods, or do you want to comment on what I just said?
Okay. Oh my gosh, this thing is so huge. I think I remember saying when this all started that it wasn't even going to be the virus itself that was so much the problem. Yes, the virus is real. Yes, the virus is killing people. But what is going to be the bigger problem is the domino effect, the cascading effect of this thing. And
that's what you said that. You said that, Guineith.
Yeah. And that is what the problem is going to be. And, something at the top of the hour news, we had a news report of a vandalism attack in Melbourne, okay, where somebody wrote on something on somebody's garage door, and this, somebody who got their garage door vandalized was Chinese. And, never mind the fact that the Chinese are basically coming in and, taking over our country and, a lot of Australians are pretty upset about that because, you wouldn't like having your country taken over by a foreign power now, would you?
Absolutely not. There are people in the United States. There are people in the United States who live in villages. And the wealthy have, summer homes. They might spend a week or so at their summer home. They have so much money that they can have homes all over the country. So they make their big money in the cities like New York, the Wall Street types, for example. And then they go and visit the countryside for a week, and then they go back to New York, which is a common thing. Well, now what's happened in the United States is these people who have all this money that come from the cities want out. And they want to move into their countryside Plan B escapes. That's where they want to go. And then they're taking their money with them, and they're buying out the local stores and everything in those local stores. So the regular 52-week-a-year villagers are frosted. Now these aren't Chinese invaders. These are like New York invaders, and they're sick of it. Yeah. And the shooting is going to probably get going to ramp up.
Yeah.
And how do you tell these guys? Well, because they wear suits, and they wear nice designer jeans, and they wear expensive white sneakers or red sneakers, and they look out of place. They don't know which end of the hammer is the business end. What was that?
The cars are clean.
Right.
That might sound silly, to somebody who's not from a country area, but you can tell if someone's from your area by the colour of dirt on their car. And that's just how it is. That's the saying around here. It's probably the same in your area.
Oh yeah, and the back window. And the back window,
yeah,
and
that's right.
Yeah, that's covered with dust. Right.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, okay, there was a situation a number of years ago when Barry was your president, okay, where somebody, you know, I think they were a Jew and they had a swastika paint. They were at a college and they had a swastika painted on their locker door or something like this. And it came out later that they'd painted it on their own locker door. And I think you'll find that in about 90% of cases of where something like this happens, that it's self-inflicted. I'm not saying that it was self-inflicted in this case. I'm not saying that it was the Chinese that did it in this case, okay? But I was saying that in about 90% of the cases of where you've got this sort of vandalism, it's actually, it's a false flag. And that is criminologically well known, okay? Anyone who's studied criminology will be able to say that in 90% of hate crime attacks are not genuine. And I don't know if this hate crime was genuine or not, and I don't know what the motivation for it was. I've got absolutely nothing to do. I don't know what it is. You know, I just live out here in the middle of the boonies. In this country, we would say out in the whoop-whoop, in the middle of nowhere. You know, I don't know what's happening in Melbourne. Melbourne's, you know, it's only 300 kilometres away, but it might as well be on another planet. You know, it's just that this is just criminology 101. 90% of hate crimes are self-inflicted. And I think that it's either self-inflicted rather than being racism. And the fact that the Prime Minister has just jumped on this and just made it massive and said, oh, we can't allow anything like this to happen. What, you can't allow anyone to hate anyone? Is that what you're saying? You know, you can't allow anybody to have a different opinion. You can't allow anyone to be mean to anyone. Well, why don't you tell that to, you know, like the several hundred people who have hated me all through my life since I was about 5 years old for absolutely no reason? Yeah, because I've been the victim of hate crime since I was about 5. I don't know why. You know, I never knew why. But I've had people bash me, and I've had, you know, this is in the past. This is over a period of 40 years, okay? I've had people, you know, try and abduct my children. I've had people falsely accuse me of criminal offences. I've had people do all sorts of heinous stuff. There's deliberately just, I've had people try and rob me of my land. You know, all sorts of things over a period of 40 years. And, you know, it's because they hate me, and, you know, should they all suffer consequences because they hate me? You know, this is it. I've just gotten over it. I've got a thick skin, and I don't care. You know, if somebody wrote on my...
Hey, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be right back with Guineith Isaacs live in Australia. Guineith Isaacs is with us, and class, there's an article on Zero Hedge, and I'd like to just tell you a little bit about what it says. Food security remains a significant problem during the coronavirus lockdowns. The next big issue unfolding is the shuttering of the nation's food plants, and that can drive food inflation sky high. On Wednesday, that's today, Tyson Fresh Meats, the beef and pork subsidiary of Tyson Foods, released a statement that its plant in Waterloo, Iowa, will suspend operations until further notice. Let me say that a different way. Tyson Fresh Meats, the beef and pork subsidiary of Tyson Foods, released a statement that its plant in Waterloo, Iowa, will suspend operations until further notice. The company said that the Waterloo location is its largest pork plant, and it's been running at reduced output due to worker absenteeism. Tyson is planning to test all 2,800 workers for the coronavirus at the facility later this week. Protecting our team members is our top priority, and that's why we've implemented numerous safety measures during this challenging and unprecedented time. That's what the group president of Tyson Fresh Meat said. Despite our continued efforts to keep people safe while fulfilling our critical role of feeding American families, the combination of worker absenteeism, COVID-19 cases, and community concerns has resulted in our decision to stop production. He warned that the closure of the pork plant could ripple through the production chain and cause significant disruptions in the nation's pork supply. Let me say that again. He said that the closure of the pork plant could ripple through the production chain and cause significant disruptions to the pork supply. The closure has significant ramifications beyond our company, since the plant is part of a larger supply chain that includes hundreds of independent farmers, truckers, distributors, and customers, including grocers, the president said. It means a loss of a virtual market outlet for farmers. It means the loss of a vital market outlet for farmers and further contributes to the disruptions of the nation's pork supply. The company said workers would be compensated while the plant is closed. There was no firm timeline on when the plant would reopen. So, Zero Hedge said, we noted over the weekend that meat prices across the country are surging as food processing plants are closing because of the virus. The latest plant closure was the China-owned Smithfield Foods factory in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the largest pork processing plant in the United States, due to a coronavirus outbreak, and could leave America without pork products. Also, health officials in Illinois closed Hormel's Rochelle food plant last Friday, a move that could trigger a shortage of Spam products. And it appears that food inflation could be imminent as the coronavirus is leading to the shutdown of food manufacturing plants across the country. So, what does this mean to you? Well, so let's say you are used to pork and beans, and the main ingredient is like 99.9999% beans and a little tiny speck of pork. Well, you might not get the pork part in your pork and beans. Hot dogs, ham, bacon, Spam, that's everything but the squeal, right? I may even have the squeal in there. That's where we are now. So is there a shortage of pigs? No. Chickens? No. Beef? No. The problem is in the production. Because in America, we have allowed large companies to control the supply chain by inserting themselves in it. They're still independent farmers that are raising cows, pigs, chickens. But if you want to get them processed, that is going to go through the big company for major supermarkets. Guineith, I would love to hear your comments on this after we finish this break, the bottom of the hour.
Yep.
This is a big deal. And do you see this in Australia? Do you see this coming to your side of the pond? We'll be right back. Class, on Friday, it looks like it's just me, and I'll be sharing with you some tips from my book, The Unpublished, Unfinished, Not Available for Sale book. And I'll teach you how to repair your Whirlpool clothes washer. You know, the pump and the fill valve in case yours doesn't fill right and in case it leaks on the floor. I'll teach you about how to make appliances last longer, and I'll teach you the way I connect wires and why I connect them the way I do. We'll talk about the use of dielectric grease, and why it's important when working on automotive connections. And we'll talk about how to remove pet odors from carpeting, and what do you do if your pet pees on the carpet, and among other things. So that's just a short list of what we'll talk about on Friday. And if you have tips, feel free to call in and share your tips with us this Friday. Guineith, I talked about the food industry, the corona panic, and how it is impacting the supply chain of food from the farm to the supermarket. Your thoughts? Is it happening in your country?
Okay, I was actually in the grocery store today, and just about everything was back in stock in our local grocery store. But the thing is I think that that's quite deceptive. I think that this thing is far from over, and I'll tell you why. I have been looking online for about the last week for small livestock, meaning rabbits, quails, and chickens, layer hens. The market for quails and rabbits and layer hens has completely dried up. There is no small livestock available here locally, within probably about 250 kilometres or 200 miles of here. There's just nothing, you know. I could probably buy a sheep or a cow or a horse off a farmer locally if I wanted to, if I approached them privately. I'm betting that they would probably sell it to me. But, you know, it's the small animals that are going, and I think that what has happened to them is that people have bought them up and that they are keeping them on their properties as a, I had a friend of mine used to call it a walking pantry. And that means that your pantry is walking around the farmyard. So, meaning the chickens, meaning the, other small livestock, rabbits, and that sort of thing. So, and it also goes to sheep and cattle as well. That's the larger end of the walking pantry that farmers tend to have on their farms. But I think that it's quite telling that end of the animal market has just completely dried up. They're just unavailable. All the way down to, like, day-old chicks, I think, are still available from big hatcheries. But, the 2- and 3-week-old chicks that you would buy from the local, the local chick supplier, the one who buys the day-old chicks and then raises them for a month and then sells them on to people. Does that make sense, Vincent? That end of the market is just completely. Oh,
it absolutely does. I was talking with one of our instructors, and he and his wife were going to buy some more chickens, and this is 1,000 miles from where we are in Missouri. Not available, and so it's the same story. Actually, a couple of our instructors said the same thing separately. And they weren't, in discussion with each other. They just happened to let me know that that's what they saw, and we're seeing the same thing here. And let's make this worse. Well, let's go back to the sheep, the goats, and the cattle. All right. So the reason that they are available right now is because most people can't handle the processing. First of all, if you're going to lift up a 1,000-pound cow, how are you going to do it? It's going to take several people that weigh more than 1,000 pounds to lift it up. So it's going to be very, very difficult to process a cow, and you're going to have a meat saw, and you have to have meat blades, and you have to have a place to hang it, and it's a mess when you disembowel an animal, so especially a large animal. And then what do you do with the guts? Okay, typically they go off to the landfill. Well, who's going to take it to the landfill from, your garage, right? So sheep, goats, and cattle are available from the farm, and the farmers would love to sell them to you, but how do you handle them? That's the problem. So that's not going to work too well unless you sell them directly and help the buyer process that cow, if you will. So then the next part of the problem is we've had people who were in the White House. Hillary Clinton was one. And she decided that she was going to start this war or join this war or foment this war on the incandescent light bulb. Now, what's that got to do with food? Well, anyone who raises chicks knows that they have to be kept warm. And the traditional method is you have incandescent lighting. And incandescent lighting was phased out because most of the energy used for the incandescent light bulb went to heat. Like 90% of it went to heat and 10% of it went to lighting. So we don't need any incandescent light bulbs except if you want to raise chicks. And if you want to raise chicks, the traditional method is to have an incandescent light bulb or an infrared light bulb. Well, we don't make those in this country. Now, if you want them, you can get them, if there are any around, still in the supply chain. And where were they made? Well, if you look on the box, it'll say make in China. Maybe Korea, maybe Taiwan, but it's Asian. Okay, so if you think that we make these infrared light bulbs to warm the chicks so you can raise them, it's going to be hard to find light bulbs, incandescent type light bulbs, and that's what they are, infrared or incandescent light bulbs that are made in this country. I don't think there's a single company that makes them. And that's brought to you by your government. The ones that are checking the food supply, the ones who have prevented the coronavirus from getting in the country, the ones that shut down the airlines before it, got a good start, the guys who closed the borders, those guys. Is brought to you by the same people. And I understand the protests, and I understand the demonstrations, and it's ramped up. It is ramped up from, marching and parading, and then carrying signs, and now they're carrying guns. And the guns are loaded. Well, we can say rifle, pistol, shotgun, revolver. Loaded. Loaded tools to defend oneself. And the people have had it. The people have had it. But why are these protesters not protesting? Why didn't they protest before? Why didn't they stop the 5G before it got rolled out? Why? Why didn't they stop Mark Zuckerberg before he got a foothold into everybody's lives? And Google, and Microsoft, and Verizon, and T-Mobile, and the rest of it. Why? Why didn't they protest, those things as well? So add that to your list. If you're thinking about protesting, protest some of the big things. And then maybe we should move food production back to local, the way it used to be, before companies like JBS and Tyson and Smithfield got involved and killed all the little producers. And then we were dependent on them, and now they're in trouble. So remember this, and as we go forward down the drain of the corona panic, remember how important local is. Now, I'm not saying overpay for local, but I am saying that when you put all of your eggs in just a few baskets and that basket closes or gets shut down or breaks, you have a big problem. Not a bunch of little problems, big problems. Because if you had a little market and that one little market went under, it's okay, right? Because as tragic as that may be, you can still survive. But when Tyson and JBS and Smithfield go down, that's a big problem. Guineith?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And I emailed you earlier about a particular project that I've got going, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it's just to make some something to use on the farm here. And this required me to purchase parts. And it turns out that this particular project, I probably was not the only one who had this certain idea, because I went online on eBay looking for the parts for this certain project, and the parts market for this particular project had just about dried up. Where everybody, it seemed, has the same idea that I had, with me just sitting around thinking how I was going to get around a certain problem or here on the farm. And I came up with this bright idea, went on eBay, found all the bits, and then went back a few days later and found out that most of those bits had sold out. and that is becoming increasingly common problem. That is becoming a really, really common problem, you know. And, you know, some of the parts were really only available imported from China for this particular project. And I had no choice but to buy the parts from China. And I thought, man, really? It's going to take until the 3rd of June to get here? You know, oh my gosh. But that is happening all the time. And it's these, I mean, if you go to the supermarket here, it's actually really, really deceptive because you go there and for the first time in about a month or 6 weeks, we had toilet paper on the shelf. And I heard people say, oh, it looks like everything's going back to normal. This is conversations overheard in the supermarket. And I just looked at them sideways. And I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding if you think that everything's back to normal because there's toilet paper on the shelf. What I noticed was that all the small toilet paper brands, the environmentally friendly, greeny, niche, recycled office paper toilet brands were gone. And it was only the big ones like Quilton and Kleenex and all the rest of them that were still there. And, of course, the Coles own brand, which is, you know, the supermarket I was going to. It's like, my gosh, the supply chain is, I believe that the proper economic term is consolidating, you know. What that means is the little guys are getting bullied out of the market. They really, really are. And I think that people are really, that they're not noticing here in Australia. It's like there's some kind of evil spell on them. I'm not talking about literally, I'm talking about figuratively, okay? So, you know, it's as if they're walking around in a trance. It's like they've been hypnotized.
Yeah, hold that thought. We'll be right back. Class, we're talking about the Corona Panic. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Kathy in Ohio is joining us. Kathy's a USA prepares instructor. Welcome, Kathy.
Good morning. I just wanted to make a comment.
Good morning.
Good morning, Guineith. I wanted to make a comment about what you were saying. And yesterday I listened to you and Rich. And toward the end of the show, you were talking the last 5 or 6 minutes, and I really feel like you hit onto something. I really start noticing people around, like there's just like a desperation now on people. You know, some people say, oh, it's going to go back to normal, but I had to go to the store yesterday for my husband. He had hearing aids, and they do clean them and adjust them. They can't do anything else to them. And I went to get a few things just to see. I did notice there were still a lot of empty shelves. People just, they don't talk to one another. Almost everybody has a mask on. It's just so tense. And I feel like the supply is really not catching up. And you really hit a nerve that I know you're trying to wake people up, but I just can't seem to do it. I talk to people and they just don't think about preparing. But that's not, I just feel like we're in for some hard times, especially when they go to reopen everything.
Well, Kathy,
I also...
let me address that for a second. So I was talking with Dr. Joel Wallach, and he's been on the air with us many times. He's been to the farmhouse, and he and I have spoken. We've traveled to different conventions, and he's been on stage after I, on the same stage, so I would introduce him after I would speak. And so, I know him pretty well. And I said to him one day, so how can you stand it? How can you stand telling people all they have to do is eat the right foods and take the right supplements and regain their health? How can you stand telling people over and over and over and having them not do it? How can you stand it? And he said Noah was pretty lonely too. And I've said on USA Prepares that I am a complete failure, because I have not gotten people to pay attention. I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, in person, in seminars. I've had expos. I brought people to, a convention, 7 conventions, and I've failed, absolutely failed. And even with my relatives, Kathy, I have failed because I cannot get them to prepare. And it seems so simple to me. Why not, if you think you're going to eat beans next week, why don't you get like 12 cans for 49 cents this week? Why not do that? Or why not get the toilet paper when there's plenty of it? Or why not get soap when there's plenty of it? Or why not get pasta or spaghetti sauce when there's plenty of it? What is the problem? Is it a space issue? You don't have room under your bed? Is that what this is? I can't do it, Kathy. I don't understand it. And Rich Sheben says, that old saying, he said it till he's blue in the face. Well, that guy's blue now. He's blue all the time because he keeps saying it over and over, and people just don't get it. So it's not just you. It's Guineith. It's Norm. Norm can't get people to change their eating habits so they don't die. Really?
Yeah.
So,
well, we have.
I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Our county. I'm in rural, but our county that's right next to us, they had property where they had a mall, and that's been vacant for probably 20 years. So they bought the property back. I think they paid $10 million for it. They just sold it to Amazon for $1. Now, and they raised our property taxes. So, like Rich and you have said, they sell us out every single time. Now, because we're telecommuting for school, and the public school system doesn't have, most of the kids don't have computers. Now they're buying all the kids' Chromebooks out of taxpayer money, and they're not helping us one bit. And like when I was at the store yesterday, there were limits on everything. One paper product. If they had poultry, it was limit 1. If they had flour, it was limit 1. And it just seemed, I don't know, it was so depressing. I know I got in and got out as soon as I could, but I just took a look around to see. And most everybody in the store was buying necessities. I didn't see people buying frivolous things. But I guess I just had to say that I think you're right, and I feel sorry for you with your cattle and what's happening to you with no fault of your own. I really do feel bad. But I guess I can only do what I can do and try to just prepare as much as I can.
Well, don't feel sorry for us. We're going to get through it. If we have to feed people by breaking the law, that's what we're going to do. And if we have to have armed guards to feed people, we're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. Because if that's what the law says, that we can't feed people who are starving, then the law's wrong. And we'll just fix that. Kathy, you're certainly welcome to hold on. I have a couple comments about what you said about these Chromebooks and education. Did you want to hold on?
Sure,
okay. So Guineith's with us live in Australia. Kathy is with us. She's an instructor as well. And she's in Ohio, and I'm in Missouri. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Kathy is with us in Ohio. And Kathy mentioned Chromebooks. And what's happening is school systems across the country are buying computers and computer tablets so that their students can receive some kind of education. Well, for about a third of my life, I had been a computer consultant, and I was advising businesses, medical institutions, hospitals, and schools on computer technology. And I would actually not only teach them what the technology was, I would build the technology, and I would install the technology, and then I would teach them how to use it. So I was not just some salesman. I actually was the designer of these systems. And starting in 1990, computers became more prevalent in education. And what happened was that the schools seemed to jump on this bandwagon. I think it was federal funding was giving money to the schools, so they could buy more computers. And the trick was to have whoever had the most computers, won the game. And, most computers per student, and which was ridiculous. But what schools started doing is they started replacing teachers with computers. And that's exactly what Kathy is talking about. They're replacing teaching with these Chromebooks. And I fought it every step of the way. I fought wireless networking, and I fought the computers being used to teach the students in the schools. So what happened, now I didn't have a problem with, if someone were sick, broke their leg and they were going to be out for, couldn't come back to school for weeks using a computer. And we actually built computers for the school to send to these homes so that students could work on their homework. But that did not replace the teacher. What we're talking about now is replacing teachers. We're replacing teachers with what used to be called distance learning. So learning from a single point. So what happens is, let's say a company in California writes some software, and it's history software and arithmetic software and geography software, and it's questions and answers, and you read the screens, click with your mouse, and allegedly you learn something, and then you regurgitate by clicking back the answer. Okay. That is what is going to be used for replacing teachers with these Chromebooks, which is insanity, because there's a whole bunch of things that go on in a classroom environment that, and I'm not saying the Department of Education is good because they're destroying education, but I am saying that when people are in a classroom together, there's peer pressure and they seem to learn better than if it's just pretending that you're learning at a tablet at home. So I have fought against, and I won all of the battles, every single one when I was involved with this distance learning. Because what happens is a company will provide software, and that software is their interpretation of what is true. So now you have, if you want to change the truth, you change that software from that one location, and everybody gets the new truth. Not the real truth, but the new truth. That's the problem. And I think that's what you're saying, Kathy. You cannot replace teachers if the teachers know what they're doing and are expert in their fields, you can't replace them with a tablet. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes. Yes. Plus, because they have to do it. And now all the costs are everything on the local news that comes on, all the costs are coming back to all the taxpayers of everything.
So you learn where the superintendent lives, okay? You learn where the principals live. You call them up and say, we get this Superintendent Jones. What's his home address? And then you get like 10 of your closest friends to go visit him at his home. Now, if it's a him and he's not there, just, ring the doorbell and tell his wife that y'all just stop by, you just want to have a chat. And you understand he's not there, so you'll be back. And if it's a her, you ring the doorbell, and if the husband's there, you tell him the same thing. You want to talk to her? She's not there. You understand coronavirus and all that stuff, so you understand why she's not at home, under self-quarantine, so you'll be coming back. Now, if enough people do that, and you say the reason that we're here is because we object to what you're doing with education, we object with what you're doing with our money, and if you keep showing up, they will be terrified. Terrified. And then you'll see the police outside their houses.
You're absolutely right, because I made some YouTube videos recently. A particular person from my local municipality, I threatened to sue her for her trying to collect on a fraudulent court order. And guess what? She applied for a restraining order against me, claiming that I wanted to hurt her, which was absolutely not true. But what I did do is I threatened to sue her and send her bankrupt for everything that she had, for her engaging in this crime against me, trying to enforce a fraudulent court order. And, something, I got the impression that I had really rattled her cage.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did, Guineith, because here's what happens.
So I rattled her cage.
What happens?
Well, I didn't.
What happens is,
I mean, what are we going to do? Are we going to file, restraining orders against everyone who issues an order to cease and desist? Are we going to do
here's
that?
what happens.
Are we going to file restraining orders against everybody who threatens to sue someone for criminal, because that person is engaged in criminal behaviour against them? Or is this, as Rick Sheehan says, is this a special protected class of people? Like municipal workers are suddenly a special selected protected class. That is total Bravo Sierra.
Yes,
these
BS.
people, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. It's just disgusting.
All right. Guineith, here's the situation. So if you as an individual taxpayer in your local village want to address the school board, and that would be the board of directors of the county school system, if you want to address them and make a suggestion or ask them why something is happening, they'll say, well, you have to get on the agenda, and we'll give you 2 minutes. So you get on the agenda, you ask your 2 minutes. You can hardly say, hey, my name is Vin Finelli in 2 minutes. But they give you 2 minutes, and then they say, and they've got a cop there or two, armed. Yeah. And if you press the limits and try to get an answer, they will escort you out under the threat of arrest. Okay, so that doesn't work because they gang up on you because there's maybe 7 school board members and a couple of cops. And then the audience doesn't stand up and demand that they answer the question because they're a bunch of sheep. So the school board always has its way. But if you turn the tables and you show up with, let's say, 10 of your friends to the superintendent's house, that's a different story. Now it's 10 on 1. Okay? It's exactly the opposite of what they do to us. Or it's the same thing as what they do to us, just reversed. So that works. Now, how do I know it works? Because we did it. We did exactly that in Virginia.
Yep. Yep.
Kathy, your thoughts?
It really is, what Kathy was saying, I wanted to mention something there. They actually did that here in Australia, probably about 2016, 2017, or thereabouts, with the Chromebooks. And guess what people found out? They found out that they had the microphones and the webcams permanently switched on, and you could not switch off the microphones and the webcam. Now, people need to take that into account, and Theo's particular, Chromebook suffered an unfortunate accident. But in the process of it suffering this unfortunate accident, we found out that there were hidden cameras in it. So people need to take account of this.
And it's not just in Australia that happened.
They need to refuse to take these Chromebooks into their homes. Because
the city of Philadelphia did.
Out.
The city of Philadelphia did the same thing. They sent computer notebooks years ago home with the students, and the students would flip open the display, the camera would face the student, and the school system was monitoring activities in the home unknown to the students and the parents. Now, what do you do? Do you say, listen, I really appreciate you don't do that, or do you reinstitute locks and stocks in your village? Now, the locks and stocks were from the 1700s, and what would happen is if someone committed a transgression against the village, what they would do is they would stand this guy up. His head would go in this, it was like a cross, but low, and you could stand and lean your head forward while you're standing up. Your neck would go in this lock, and your hands would be to either side of you, and there you would sit stand until they decided they were going to let you out. Now, did they give you bathroom breaks? I don't think so. I think you just peed and pooped in your pants. And you became the laughing stock of the village.
That's
and everybody
right.
knew who you were. So
right.
why not reinstitute that? And when people transgress, like what's happening now, bring back the locks and stocks and just escort them to the locks and stocks and say, listen, I'll tell you what, I think a week is enough. I don't think we should put you in here for more than a week.
The other thing is that you have to bear in mind, okay, sometimes things happen to these Chromebooks And, you know, really, really, really unusual things can happen to these Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can have all sorts, you know. I'm not saying that this is what happened to our Chromebook. We've had probably, you know, since we got here about 7 years ago, we've gone through maybe, you know, half a dozen computers at this house. Okay, mostly ones that we've bought. I don't know what happened to every single one, but you know, we've had dogs vomit on the computer, and dogs have a stomach acid of a concentration of 1 mole. Hydrochloric acid, and if it vomits on your computer keyboard, that computer's dead, more or less instantaneously.
Yeah,
you know,
and it doesn't even have to be dog vomit. It can be something a little more easy to obtain. That'd be human vomit. Kathy, what are your thoughts about all this?
It's like this. It's like this. We have really, really weak mobile signal around here, and, you know, sometimes I have to go up to the top of the water tower that we have near our house that provides pressure in our taps just to make a cell phone call. And, you know, if I drop a device from the top of that tower, it's probably not going to be alive when it hits the ground. So there's some of the, because we live in, you know, in an area where, you know, just all sorts of unfortunate things have happened to devices around here over the years.
The problem,
like I said, I'm not necessarily
the problem is it's your money.
About the school one. But
the problem is
the sort of thing that happens.
The problem is it's your money, and they're stealing your money at the muzzle of a gun, and they're doing things like this. Kathy, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I have one more comment about something else that they did. I agree with what you said, but
we'll be right back.
If you don't mind, I'll hold just a couple minutes.
Please do, Kathy. So Kathy and Guineith and I will be right back after these few short commercial announcements. Guineith is with us live in Australia. Kathy's in Ohio. Kathy, you had some comments?
The Chromebook and
Kathy,
what you're saying. And, yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Vince.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I agree with what you're saying about the Chromebook. A couple things I wanted to mention. I did see gas at 99 cents in our town. And I did have a UV light. You had mentioned it a few months ago, and I had my son order it on eBay, and right after you said that, I couldn't get one. People must have just took your advice, because I checked the same day, and I had him order it, but it took like 6 weeks to come in, and I did get it. So I did use that. The other thing I wanted to mention was we got a letter. It's called our area medical system's called ProMedica, and they literally own about half the city. They have hospitals and buildings and land and roads. We got a letter from them asking them for us to donate to them because they were struggling.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And these are the same people.
Are these the people
like
that...
Vatican asking for money.
Well, these are the same people that forced all the independent doctors out of business. If you didn't join them, they would not allow you to go to the hospitals.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't help them one iota. I would not. I missed the call from Joey last night. Mrs. Finelli took the call, and Joey told her what was happening. And Joey lives in Michigan. He said that in Michigan, the school systems are distributing lunches, meals to children. They're not going to school because the schools are closed. So they're using the school bus routes and school buses to drop off meals to students at the bus stop. So here's what, and I found the article. He found it in maybe the local news. But yeah, so it says, this is MLive, I guess it'd be MichiganLive.com. In response, federal agencies gave approval for school lunches to be distributed without the normal requirement that students eat meals in a group setting or at school, according to a March 13 news release. Schools may now provide food to children who are 18 and younger at designated pickup locations or school bus stops. the state announced. The move will allow schools to continue providing children with food while simultaneously allowing for social distancing, one of the Center of Disease Control's recommendations to limit the spread of the coronavirus. And some districts have yet to announce or finalize their plans. So what's happening is we are now using school buses that get terrible mileage, that have an incredible amount of maintenance required on them, to deliver lunches. That's what's happening. Now, the question I think that Joey was wondering is, did they turn the electricity and heat the whole school or just the kitchen in the schools? How does this work? How do they do that? And why are we doing it in the first place? Why are we providing lunches, free lunches for people to go to school? Why? Why is that happening? It's been going on for a long time. I know that. And I remember asking our children, so tell me, what was your day like at school? Well, first we had to wait for, you wait for the school bus. You get on a school bus, you ride it for 45 minutes, you get to school. And then you have to wait for those who are having the free breakfast, to have free breakfast. Then they show up at their class. And then the classroom begins and they have bathroom break. So there's free breakfast, free lunch. What about Saturday and Sunday? Do the children not eat those days? How does this work? But that's what our school system has become. We're feeding children who are not eating at home. Why aren't they eating at home? Why not fix that? Fix that instead. Kathy, you're absolutely right. These are outrages. And I think that more and more protests are going to begin until 90% of this government fluff and surplus gets eliminated. How many of you know people who have government jobs? And how many of you think that they are the brightest candle in the room? Do you really think they are? Or do you think that we pay them just so that they don't clog up the streets? Kathy, any other comments?
Oh, no, I'm done. I'll let you go in case you have other callers. Thank you.
Great. Kathy, thanks so much for being with us. As we go down this drain with the corona panic, it's going to be very difficult for me to want to help people, feed them, the ones who have been on, work is tough, got to go on vacation, and, spring break, vacation, Christmas, on and on and on, traveling all over, in the good old days, and not preparing. And yet they're going to be hungry, and they're going to be asking farmers like me to help them because they're hungry. It's going to be very difficult to want to do that, extremely difficult. And I don't even know if I have the capability of helping them because I'll have to remember, I know I'll remember all the waste, the squandering of resources, the drilling holes in the air with airplane travel and things like that. It's going to be very difficult for me to want to help people that behaved like that in the past. How about you?
Well, it's like this. I think I'll be happy if I can grow food for myself and my family.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be us. And, I think, with Bill Gates, oh my gosh, he's got this mark of the beast technology, this microchip that is a liquid crystal tattoo that goes into your body, and the liquid crystals go into your bloodstream and are there forever. It's basically Revelation chapter 13 happening before our very eyes. I think that before long, cash is going to not be an option for us, for anyone who would ever claim to be on the side of the angels and on the side of God and on the side of the holy saints of God, that this is not something that is an option for them. For anyone who's written in the Lamb's Book of Life to get this mark, because it's like this, okay? You've got cows on your farm, right?
Yep, we do.
One of your cows if the fence goes down and one of your cows goes out of the paddock and it goes down the road and finds its way into another farmer's field, how do you prove that that's your cow?
Well, for us, it's real easy because they all have ear tags, and we use a different color. So, yeah, they have been tagged, and we do that for a couple reasons.
Got your
because
mark on it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what you're talking about. We mark them. Some people brand them. Some people use ear tags. Some people use white, red, yellow, blue.
Some people
and we
use microchip.
Right, and we don't do that. But, yeah, you're right. That's what they want to do. And I say, Bill Gates, you go first. You go first. You know, if you want to do population elimination, you go first.
I'll tell you what. He has already patented this technology, and the patent number is there on the internet for anybody to look up. U.S. patent number 2020 060606. I kid you not. That is the patent number for this technology. And it's staring you in the face. And so for all of us who call ourselves servants of Jesus Christ, we better just forget about buying and selling. We better just worry about looking after ourselves in the best way that God and us can arrange together. Okay? Some people might find that it's their talent for growing cattle. Some people might find that they're really good at growing, I don't know, courgettes or tomatoes or lettuces or chickens or rabbits or whatever it is, sheep. You know, some people might be fishermen. Some people might be good at sewing or cooking. But we're all going to have to work together because very, very soon the whole cash thing is going to go out the window. The whole use of any currency whatsoever, including cryptocurrencies, you're not going to be able to use them because they're all going to be reliant on you having this technology. And I have heard, okay, that there are people who call themselves Bible preachers telling their flocks that this is not the Revelation 13 technology, that it's okay that they can get that mark and that they can still attend the church. And you know what? That is absolutely unconscionably highness. Because if you get a microchip or a tattoo technology, people take it on their hand or in their forehead, and it's got, you know, the very patent number is 666060606. That how can you not think that that is that technology? And it is prophesied in the Bible, in Revelation 13, in the Catholic Bible, and in the Eastern Orthodox Bible. It's called Apocalypse 13. It's the last book of the Bible, chapter 13. Go and read it. And this is chapter and verse, literally. This technology is unfolding before our eyes. And if anyone gets this technology, they're a darn fool because they are canceling themselves out from God's grace forever. That's what the prophecy says. And you've got no chance of ever getting any help from heaven ever again in your whole life if you get this tattoo or microchip or whatever it is. And it came out of the mind of Bill Gates. And he's probably going to call it something like, I don't know, Certificate of Vaccination ID. Oh, hang on, that stands for COVID, doesn't it? Gosh, what a coincidence. Who knew? You know, none of these people worship the devil in their spare time and drink baby's blood. Okay? There's been so many witnesses come out about these people. They're evil. You do not want anything to do with them, you know. And if you haven't got real estate at this point in time, you better learn how to do stealth camping. Just go on YouTube while there's still YouTube, while these videos are still on YouTube, you know, and look up stealth camping and learn how to do it. If you don't have real estate of your own, you'd better learn how to do that because I can tell you what they're going to have happening. okay? If you think that you're going to be able to hide out in a national park camping, they're going to go and they're going to find your campfire and they are going to harass you and they are going to make you stop. That's happening now. That's not even in the future because they say it's social distancing, against social distancing to camp, 30 kilometres from everywhere, 20 miles from anywhere, that you're not allowed to do that because you're going to be locked in your house, all right? Because it's against social distancing rules to be camping 20 miles out in the middle of nowhere by a lake. It's absurd. They're going to send drones to harass you if you do that because they do not want you out there. So if you are planning to go camping, you'd better learn how to do it like an Indian, like a Native American. You'd better learn stealth camping because otherwise you're going to get caught. They're going to catch you and they're going to put you in a concentration camp. That is what they're going to do. And the only people who will survive will be people who know the old school Cherokee and Apache stealth camping skills. They will be the only ones who survive. So go and learn them now. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Absolutely it does. And to that I have a comment. And the comment is, oh, by the way, the phone's ringing, phone lines are ringing. If you have called in, just stay with us. And Jason will answer the phone. He is really, really busy right now. But stay with us. Let it keep ringing. And Jason will be with you, and I'll put you on the air. So my comment is, got 22s? Repeat, got 22s? Got shotgun. Got shotgun. You got one of those? Got shepherds? You have a shepherd? I'm talking about the dog or something like that. Got marbles. You got marbles? Now, why would I say got marbles? Boy, I hate to say this on the air, so I can't. But you might need them. You might need marbles. In case you can't find ball bearings. You might need marbles.
Yep. And I would encourage people at this time to experiment with a variety of projectile firing devices. Okay? Ones that are very high-tech and ones that are very low-tech, and everything in between. I would absolutely encourage people to do that because you may find yourself in the situation where you have to improvise with your projectile firing devices.
Yes.
That's just what you've got to do. And what you need to bear in mind is you may be in a situation where you can't advertise your location through discharging a firearm.
Right.
Because that can really mess up your day.
Mm-hmm.
You may be in an area where firearms are unobtainable, and even if you did own one, you couldn't let it off anyway.
Mm-hmm. David in Illinois, welcome.
The situation.
How you doing?
In a lot of areas.
Yeah, David's with us.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I wasn't going to say this. How you doing? I was going to ask her. It's getting crazy, isn't it? I'll tell you, I wish I was still in college doing psychology now because I wouldn't have to sit there and try to come up with ideas of what to research about and who to observe. It's everywhere.
David, you're absolutely right. There are people who are protesting right now saying, I have a right to live my life. And there are people who are saying that I'm smart enough to know what to do, and they're side by side without any personal protection, masks and so forth. It makes no sense. There are people who are on the radio who are saying that this is still a hoax. I can't believe it. I mean, there are people. The death rate right now is roughly 2 people dying per minute in the United States. 2 per minute.
And my question is to that is for these people on the other radio channels that are still saying that this is a hoax and the numbers are all made up. It's not true. What does the numbers have to be before they finally say, oops, we've made a mistake? Where does it have to go? I don't know if there's some of them people are so entrenched into their opinion. I don't think the only thing that may change it is if somebody in their own household dies.
Well, Marty Barrett is a USA Prepares instructor. 3 of her students have it. And one of our family friends has a relative, a friend who just died of it, a lifelong friend just died of it. So is it real? Yeah, it's real. We'll be right back. Class, I just went to a search engine and I typed in shotgun and marbles. And do you know there are videos on the internet of people filling shotgun shells with marbles? Huh. David, have you ever heard of anything like that?
I've seen them put CO2 cartridges in shotgun shells.
Oh, wow.
And they tear up rock pretty good.
Wow. Well, I'm looking at one that says glass marbles, shotgun rounds destroying everything.
Now, my grandfather gave me a bag of marbles they came in about a 10-pound bag, but they were cloth wrapped like potatoes come in the old days because they were real old.
Yeah.
And I was going to use them for a slingshot, but they were antiques basically. So, but I never got to keep them because when my dad's friend would come in my room, they said they could have been used in the crime, so they took them.
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah, they did come in a bag, and some of them were made in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Some of those antique marbles, and one of our students in West Virginia makes marbles. That's what he does. He hand makes them, limited edition. But yeah, so people have put marbles in shotgun rounds, and just plain old non-antique marbles. And I looked on the internet. You can buy them, and they're quite inexpensive, very inexpensive.
Do you now?
I've got to let you know something, okay, about that. If you're going to be using them for hunting for food, you have to bear in mind that those marbles are going to explode, and they're going to send bits of glass all through your meat.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. So, yeah, we don't recommend you do this, class.
You don't want to be eating bits of glass, and the bits of glass are going to be almost impossible to completely remove from the meat. Some of them are going to be tiny.
Yeah, surgeons can't find it.
In mind if they're going to be using these for hunting food.
Yeah, and surgeons can't find the bits of glass because it doesn't show up on X-rays. So if you're going to buy marbles, certainly don't put them in shotgun shells. And marbles, get them to play marbles while you're in the Corona lockdown if you're going to get them.
Now, you see all these people. I just seen on there earlier, heard on this news earlier, where they were talking about the drones. It was on this channel or another one. And I brought up about the drones last week, about that the government's not going to want to stop using them. Well, they announced that not only can they check your temperature, they can check your heart rate and your pulse from a drone. And you think they're going to keep that up?
And they can measure your distance from other people and let you know if you bump into that 6-foot radius.
I mean, you could have a drone hovering on the corner of a building, just sitting on the corner and not taking off and watching somebody for weeks, and they wouldn't even know it. And they could just sit there idle.
It's interesting how technology comes out, and then the first guys to adopt it would be governments, like satellite communications, like drones, like projectile firing devices. That's what they want. The government wants to use the latest technology against us. So we have email to send a message from one person to another, but the government wants to read it. The government wants to spy on you from overhead, in front of you. The government endorses Google riding around with these cars to map the earth. So they've got a picture of your house, your mailbox, you in the yard, if it happens to be if you happen to be outside in the yard when this thing goes by. I mean, they want to know everything. That's what governments do. They want to know everything, and they want to control everything.
Don't forget about the people that are just getting out of their shower and get seen by them, because that's happened too.
Absolutely. And just like I mentioned in Philadelphia, the school system sent out those notebook computers, and students had them in their homes, and they just opened them up and left them running, and the cameras turned on by the school system so they can listen through the microphone, watch through the camera what's happening in those houses. And I don't know why there wasn't a shortage of Louisville sluggers at that time. I don't know why.
Now, what worries me about this is there's so many people that are they want to go, if they want to go out and run around and have their party, and that's fine. But I think if they get sick, they should not put hospital workers at risk. They should put all them people in a separate wing somewhere. Say, look, you took your own chances. But the other thing I'm really worried about is, do you see how many guns were sold, how many background checks were done last month? Almost 4 million. You know, and there's a lot of them people that the dealers are saying, never a gun owner. They were anti-gun. They're buying guns. Now, what about those people that they don't have no training? And I could see, and if they're trying to force them to do things, I can see this going real bad.
I saw a video of a guy shooting a shotgun, holding the butt right in front of his head and the buttstock, and squeezing off around, and the shotgun hit him in the head and knocked him down, probably knocked him out. I mean, there's some stupid people doing some really stupid things. And so the time to learn how to do this was way before now. Way before now. So, David, you make a very good point. Gwyneth, thank you for staying up late and being with us.
Well, God bless.
Kathy in Ohio, thank you.
Have a good week.
You too. See you next week. David, thank you.